What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another tier list for you guys. Seeing as it is halfway house in the Premier League, we thought we'd do averages of each and every single player that we've given player ratings to this season, barring the ones that have gone out the door, like Eric Dyer. But yeah, we've got a few tiers for you. So it goes from awful to, that goes from 0 to 4.9. Not good is 5 to 5.4. Okay is 5.5 to 6.4. Good is 6.5 to 6.9. Very good is 7 to 7.4, and excellent is 7.5 to 10. And we've even got an extra tier in there for you as well, which is player of the season. So the highest rated player will go into that tier. It's going to be interesting to see where these players sit. Obviously, we have had a very strong start to the season, first half, and I imagine there'll be a lot of high marks.
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be interesting to see where we've rated for the whole season, because these are all our player ratings throughout the whole season so far averaged out. So I'm excited to see how these players are getting on, how we've judged them so far this season. I think there's going to be a few surprises in here.
All right, well, let's get into it, and let's start off with our number 13, soon to be number 1, is Vicario.
And where do you reckon he goes?
I think he should go in excellent. 100%. He should.
7.5.
7.5.
So
excellent. Just about.
Excellent.
Yeah, just about.
Well, Brian Daigle, you had to eat some of Brian Daigle's ratings, because he did some ratings last time. The last couple of games he's given him a 6 because he hasn't had much to do. So that's kind of dampened his ratings a bit. But overall, I rated him a 7.5. You rated him a 7.3. But basically, yeah, 7.5 overall. Look, what a strong start to the season. Yeah. He's had unbelievable signing. I was actually thinking about it the other day. I can't think of a goal, apart from maybe the second goal against West Ham, where I'm like, he should have done better there. Yeah. Or like, he should have saved that shot. Like, he's not made any mistakes. He's made a series of amazing saves. He's actually top of the league as well for post-shot expected goals. So like, he has kept out more goals than expected than anyone else in the league. He's just been an unbelievable signing. Week in, week out, making worldy saves as well. I think he's been the best goalkeeper in the Premier League so far, regardless of the stats. Well, the stats even back that up. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The stats even back that up. So I don't think we could have hoped for a better goalkeeper signing, to be honest. You cast your mind back to the transfer window, we were all up in arms, not getting David Raya and bringing in unknown goalkeeper in Vicario. And it's not just like him as a goalkeeper, but his mentality as well, and his passion around the team is infectious. So I'm loving every second of Vicario, and like I said, we couldn't have wished for a better goalkeeper to be the successor of Hugo Lloris. Let's move on. Let's go to Fraser Forster. I imagine he just goes into can't judge, because he only played that one game against Fulham in the Cup. If we were judging him harshly, he goes into a 5.5, which is for that one game, because I gave him a 6, you gave him a 5, or the other way around. But yeah, I can't judge. He's only had one game. Didn't even play the FA Cup game. So. Yeah. Is next up, is that Emerson Royale? It is Emerson Royale.
I would probably say Emerson goes into, I would say maybe good or okay.
6.
I'll go okay.
6.2.
Yeah, okay.
He goes into okay. Look, he has had some good displays when he's filled in at centre-back occasionally. And to be fair, I think when he started at right-back, he's been all right. Hasn't been that many times. But yeah, he has had a few shockers. He has struggled in a few games. I remember Man City away, really struggling. So I think he's like stepped in and done okay. But I wouldn't say I need more, because I think from a squad player, it's like, he's like, as you expect, really, isn't he? I think he's done a decent job, but nothing like amazing. What
I like about Emerson is that he's been asked to fill in many roles this season: left back, centre back, right back. And he always comes with the right mentality. We know his quality is sometimes left wanting, especially when he's at centre back or left back. But I like the mentality that he does show, albeit I do think that at some point, I don't think it's urgent, but I think at some point that he's going to need to be upgraded on.
Agreed. I don't think he's perfect for what Ange likes to do in terms of how quickly he can pass the ball and stuff like that. But I think for now, he's a pretty decent squad option to have.
Moving on is Pedro Porro up next. Right back, been stellar this season. I'm hoping he goes into excellent, because he deserves it.
And he does go into excellent. 7.6 overall. So very consistent this season. Most of the time, getting rated above a 7. If 7.6 means a lot of the time he's getting 8s and 9s as well. I don't think we've given him I think the only game below a 7 was we played Brighton away, he didn't get a great rating for that. And
that probably was his poorest performance of the season.
And also Chelsea at home, obviously when we lost 4-1. Those are the only 2 games where he didn't get a great rating. Other than that, it's either been 7s, 8s or 9s. I mean, he's been unbelievable. Most assists in the Premier League for a defender at the moment as well.
In Europe as well.
In Europe, just shows... Look, we knew what quality he had last season, right? You saw it when we were signing him, but it's so great to see him in a fully functioning system and providing those attacking outputs that we know he can do.
Yeah, Dim Tim Sherwood still coming out and giving him all that shade. I mean, what is he on about?
Honestly, it's like when a guy knows he's wrong, but he like can't admit it.
Yeah,
and he's like doubling down. He's like finding anything. He's
a bit like you and Ndombele.
Mate, Ndombele. Yeah, I think Sherwood is an absolute plonker for doubling. He's still going on about his defensive efforts. Like you haven't watched him this season, clearly.
Yeah. He picked the right moment to come out with that, though, because there were a few defensive flaws against Manchester United. But I think all season he's been brilliant, to be honest. And that Man United game doesn't take away anything from that. And in terms of like where he ranks in terms of right backs in the Premier League right now, I would say he's probably up there, maybe right back of the season. It's either him or Trent. I mean, he's in good company, isn't he?
100%. Yeah.
Next up, we're going to go for Mickey van der Ven. He's been unbelievable when he has been on the pitch this season. He has just come back from a lengthy injury, 3 months out. But before he got injured, I mean, he was absolutely faultless.
Yeah, and he goes into excellent with an average of 8.
Wow.
Which is incredible. How
many games has he played?
He's played, I think he's played, let me see, 11. Let me see here. He's played 13, it says, actually. Okay. He's played 13 games. Hasn't dropped a rating below 6 the whole season, which is incredible. He did get a 10 out of 10 against Luton away, getting a clean sheet and a goal as well. He's just been an unbelievable signing. We missed him so badly with that when he picked up that injury. So great to have him back, and he literally hasn't had a bad game yet, which is incredible to think about for a young centre-back in a new league. It's amazing. Yeah,
he did look a bit rusty against Manchester United, which is expected after, being out for so long, but I'm so happy to have him back, and I can't wait to see him and Romero, even Dragusin, come in there and form that formidable partnerships that they had before the injury came about. So Mickey van der Ven, another one who's just would you say it's been a surprise how good he's been? Because I think it has been, because I thought, like, when we first signed him, we were all in agreement saying, oh, this guy's going to need time to bed into the Premier League. Such a young defender, not that many games at the top level behind him as well. And he's just come in, taken to it like a duck to water. And it seems like he's been in the Premier League for so long.
Yeah, I think the performances we're seeing right now from Van der Ven, or when he came into the team, those performances we were hoping to see, but down the line. We weren't expecting to see it like straight away. It's not a total surprise like this is how good he can be. It's just a massive surprise how quickly it's come. And that's the amazing thing about Van der Ven, how he's just bedded in straight away and literally not look back.
Exactly. Let's move on and let's go to Cuti Romero, another player who's been unbelievable this season. He has had a few mishaps, to be honest, in terms of sending offs and own goals and stuff, giving away penalties and stuff like that. But I do think he's been absolutely stellar this season, and I think he's going to go in excellent as well.
He does go in excellent. 7.6 overall as well. Actually level with Porro, which is outstanding. The funny thing is, Romero, there's a kind of narrative that, maybe it's, he's a liability, all this kind of stuff. And obviously he did have that awful game against Chelsea, which we both gave him a 1 out of 10 for. But apart from that one game, he hasn't dropped below a 7. And most of it has been 8s and 9s. So I think that goes to show, like, that Chelsea game was very much an outlier in the season compared to how he's performed.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, against Arsenal, he had a good game that day, but he did give away a penalty and score an own goal as well. So that was a bit disappointing. But I think if you take out that Chelsea game, is he going to be our player of the season if you take that game out?
Potentially. If I took out that Chelsea game, I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers to who got the highest mark, but if I take out that Chelsea game, he's averaging an 8, which is the same as Van der Ven. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely up there for sure. I think he's been unbelievable for them, like, whenever he's played. But it's just a shame. It seems like that Chelsea game is the one that's going to stick out in a lot of people's minds, and that's what they'll remember. Yeah, but he's been unbelievable.
Next up is Radu Dragusin, obviously our brand new signing, came on in the latter stage of the Man United game, so not really many minutes to judge. We haven't given him a rating, so I guess he goes into can't judge, but I'm very excited to see what comes from him. Next up is Ben Davies. Obviously, he's filled in really well in the absence of Mickey van de Ven. I would say he goes into very good, actually, Ben Davies.
6.7. So
he goes into good.
He goes into good. But it's interesting, in the last, since the West Ham game, he's actually averaging a 7.8. So once he's bedded into that centre back role, he's performing at a really high level. Unfortunately, some performances earlier in the season and when he was in those first couple of performances at centre back, he was struggling a bit. So that's probably what's cost him a very good or even potentially an excellent. But he has been excellent. Since the Newcastle game, he's averaged a very high rating. So, look, to be fair to him, you got to give him credit because everyone was very worried about him coming into centre-back and he's done a really great job. So, credit to Ben Davies.
Next up is Destiny Udogie, star performer for Spurs this season. I think he goes straight into excellent, to be honest, and I think he's been the best left-back in the Premier League this season.
I agree. He actually goes into very good, 7.3. So just misses out on excellent, according to us. I think it's only 2 games really that have cost him, to be honest.
Chelsea.
The Chelsea game he got sent off, and the West Ham game he was kind of at fault for both goals potentially. If I remember rightly.
With the back pass.
So he got a 4 out of 10 for that and a 2 out of 10 for Chelsea. But other than that, he hasn't dropped below a 6. So it's really harsh, probably. He probably should go into excellent because with those literally 2 games out of the 23 has only cost him. So it is quite harsh, but that's what's knocked his average down to only a very good as opposed to an excellent.
It is a shame. But like I said, I do think he's been the best left-back in the Premier League this season. I can't think of another left-back that's been comparable to him. No. As much as we said on the right-back, Trent has probably been comparable to Porro. Has anyone been comparable to Udogie on the left?
No, it's natural left-backs. He's been by far and away the best in the league, I think, so far this season. So I think we probably should bump him up to excellent.
All right, bump him up. Go on. Let's bump up Destiny Udogie to excellent. I think he deserves it as well. So Udogie goes into excellent. Let's go to Ryan Sessegnon up next. Obviously, he hasn't played, so he came on in the last stages of the Burnley game in the FA Cup, but that's the only minutes he's seen, so he goes into can't judge. Next up is that Ivan Perisic up next as well. He did play quite a bit in the beginning.
Obviously, he's 5 games he's played. So I guess, put him in. He got an average of a 6.5, so that's good, right? Goes into good. I think that's a fair representation of how he started the season. He was really good coming off the bench and affecting things. So I thought, I think he's. It's a shame that he got injured at the time he did because he was really helping us. Change games when he was coming off, and it was a bad timing, but obviously he's on his way out now. And
this is probably the last time you're probably ever going to see him in a tier list that we're going to make, because it looks like he is on his way to Hajduk Split.
So good luck to him if he does make that move, but he goes into good.
Next up is Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. I think he's filled in well, Højbjerg. I think he's had a bit of an up and down season, to be honest. I think sometimes he hasn't shown how good he can be, but other times he's filled in really well. I'll probably say he goes into okay.
6.3, so that is okay, just about okay.
Just about okay.
Just about sound good. I think that's fair as well. I do think there's a number of times he stepped in, especially we're looking to see out games, and has done a really good job. But there have been times where he started games where we've had injuries and we're relying on him, and he's just not been at the required standard in terms of the quickness of how he needs to play his passes and things like that. So I still think he's a good player. He's done well, but there have been clearly evidence of why we want to move him on. Yeah,
absolutely. So. I think that's completely fair for Højbjerg. Very much an up and down season, and I think we are going to keep him on past the January transfer window as well. So he'll get more opportunities to impress, that's for sure. But let's move on to Rodrigo Bentancur. I think he's probably played less than Ivan Perisic, to be honest, hasn't he?
We've given him a rating for 6 games, so
one more game,
more than Perisic.
I would say Bentancur, since he's come back, probably goes into very good, I would say.
Well, he goes into excellent, apparently. 7.5 since he's come back.
So just about into excellent.
Yeah, just about into excellent. But I think that goes to show, how great he's been since he's come back. When he has started, he has been, apart from the Bournemouth game where he looked a bit rusty, Like I think he has been like top standard, and I'm so happy that he's come back and he's kind of getting into his level so quickly, because that was a big worry, isn't it? What kind of condition is he going to come back in after such a long injury? Yeah. And it's been a bit of a relief that he's been really good.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because he came back from his ACL and he looked like better than ever in that Aston Villa game. Then he goes down injured. And then when he came back from that injury, he looked a bit rusty. But there was no rust at all coming back from the ACL, though, was there? And look, he took time to get into it, but I thought against Manchester United, he was so important to us, got that equaliser as well. And he really showed that leadership mentality against Manchester United. Obviously, captained the side against Burnley as well.
Yeah, and I thought against Burnley he had a really strong game. So really happy to see Bentancur getting back to his best. And let's hope for a massive second half of the season for him.
Yeah. Let's move on to Yves Bissouma. He's had a very up and down season, Bissouma. I thought he was absolutely brilliant first 10 games. When that Luton game comes and he gets sent off, he just hasn't been the same player since then, and that's just the reality of it. He's had 2 sending offs this season, which was very much to our detriment, and he just hasn't found those levels pre-Luton since then.
And just to emphasise that point, pre-Luton, he was averaging an 8.2, which is probably more than anyone.
Yeah.
Since Luton, he's averaged a 5.1.
That's it.
And that's the reality of the situation. Now, we're all like very much hoping he gets back to that consistency, but it just hasn't happened so far. So overall, it's a 6.7. So he does go into good because of that stellar first half of the season, but I don't know what's happened to him since that Luton game. I don't know if I can just put it down to confidence or what it is, but he's just been very, very inconsistent.
2 sending offs as well.
2 sendings off.
Stupid ones as well. Both of them so stupid. Like the one against Luton, he gets sent off for diving.
Yeah.
And the Forest one, he just like loses the ball and tries to like make up for his mistake and then does a stupid lunge. So 2 very stupid sending offs, but hopefully he'll come back. I know he's suffering from malaria. Hopefully it's not too bad, but hopefully he comes back from the AFCON and really, kickstarts his season again.
Agreed.
Next up, who's that? Maddison. James Maddison. He hasn't played since he's got injured. Before the injury, he's definitely on excellent because he was probably the best player in the Premier League.
Yeah, 7.8. So very much an excellent. That means he's nearly averaging an 8, literally getting 8 to every game, which is astonishing. 3 goals and 6 assists in his first 10 games. One of the best players in the Premier League in that stretch. Has been injured since then. We've missed him terribly. It's been a massive blow. But what a start to the season. That makes me all the more excited to have him back.
Yeah, and he's back now. He's put a picture on Instagram today of his boots filled with or got grass all over them. So he's been on the pitch training. I'm excited to see the Spurs videos come out later and see James Maddison in action, because he is going to be so important for us the second half of the season. We've missed him so much, and we're finally getting our squad back together, which is just such great news. But Maddison obviously goes into excellent. Next up is Pape Matar Sarr, and he's got to go to excellent as well, surely.
7.2, so very good he goes into. Right. I think
our first very good.
Yeah, our first very good. I think what's really let him down, Brighton away, didn't have a great game. Wolves away, didn't have a fantastic game. It says here, Fulham away in the Cup, he's been harshly judged on that. But I think overall, obviously, he's been brilliant, especially for such a young player for the first time playing regularly for Spurs. I think he has got like a really good consistency. I guess when we're talking about excellence, has he been on the level of a Maddison or Van der Ven or stuff like that in terms of just being like at the very top every game? I guess maybe not, but he's like to be consistently a 7 out of 10 for a 20-year-old is also an amazing achievement.
I think this guy needs to be bumped up to excellent, because I would say that a lot of the time his good work does go unnoticed sometimes, and he maybe gets a lower mark than he should do. You saw when he came back into the side, was it against Newcastle?
Yeah.
And, you just saw how important he was to the team and how much we missed him. And no one really recognised when he was out how much we are missing him. And I thought we missed him again at Old Trafford. And so whenever he doesn't play, we are missing him. He does such an important role to the team that maybe our other midfielders are not doing. So I think maybe his ratings don't reflect how important he has been for us this season.
Yeah, you're probably right. Apart from those games I mentioned, he hasn't got below a 7. So I think he's been pretty consistent. The problem with Sarr is like he's great, but unless he like does something special, very often he's very rarely going to get below over an 8 or a 9 because as you say, a lot of those work goes unnoticed and he doesn't like get those more accolades like a Maddison would because Maddison's getting those goals and assists and stuff like that.
Bump him up, come on.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
All right, Pape Matar gets bumped up to excellent. And I think it's only worthy of what he's produced or contribute to the season so far. Next up, we're going to look at Giovanni Lo Celso, which this is going to be an interesting one because, again, he's been a bit up and down. I think mostly he's been good when he's played, to be honest. He's contributed with goal contributions whenever he's played, to be honest. I would say he goes into very good.
6.6.
Good.
So it goes into good. He's hurt a bit that at the start of the season. I remember at the start of the season he came off the bench a couple of times, didn't really do much, and also
Fulham game he
started, played 45 minutes, he was terrible, and then got injured. But since he came back from injury, to be fair, if you just take that little run of form since come back from injury, it's like a 7, so a bit better. Would have been very good, but if you take his whole season into account, it is a 6.6. But I think good is a decent rating for him. I think he has been done really well, like as a stopgap for Maddison.
The problem is with Gio is like whenever he gets a run of games, you just never see him for ages, and the availability sometimes is the best quality, and he's just not available as much as we would want him to be. So, yeah, he has been good in that stretch of games, but he's injured again, isn't he?
Yep. And hopefully it won't be too long, but that is the reality.
Next up is... Who is that?
Solomon.
Manor.
Sorry, no, Skip.
Ollie Skip. So Ollie Skip, he hasn't been that good this season. His best performance did come on the weekend against Manchester United, which we gave him a 7 for. But I would probably say Ollie Skip goes into okay. Maybe even... okay.
5.9.
5.9, yeah, okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's probably right for Skip. I don't think he's been a disaster, but he has been below what we need, to be honest, more often than not. I think, obviously, we know he gives you 100%. He never stops running, all that kind of stuff. But his on-the-ball ability, apart from the United game where he showed glimpses of maybe that improving, it's just been well below par.
Yeah.
Moves always seem to break down when the ball comes to him and things like that. He did have a decent game, I thought, in his best position in the 6 against Everton, but that's the only time he's played there.
And against United, I thought he was really good against United, and he showed his passing ability. He was juggling it around Man United players in the midfield at times. I mean, that performance against Man United, I think, was by far his best in the season, to be honest. And if he can produce that whenever he comes on the pitch, then, I'd be happy to keep him around, but he just doesn't.
He hasn't so far anyway.
Next up is Manor Solomon. Hasn't played that many games, got injured quite early on.
He had a rating for 4 games.
4 games. So one of them was really good against Burnley. I remember with 2 assists. I thought he was really good that day. But apart from that, maybe Sheffield United, we probably gave him a good rating as well. So I'll probably say Manor goes into good or okay on the cusp of both of them.
Yeah, hasn't played obviously since the Liverpool game. He got a 6.6 overall, so goes into good. I do think he was pretty good when he did play. Well, I don't think he set the world alight.
Yeah.
But I do think in the small amount of appearances we did see from him, I think he did a pretty good job for the team.
Yeah, and another player that's coming back as well should be in the squad for the Man City game. And he's just gives us another option to have, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Next up is Richarlison. That? Yeah, Rishi. So Rishi could have 2 different ratings, one for the pre-surgery and one for post-surgery, because pre-surgery he was terrible. Then post-surgery he's been magnificent. I think 7 goals or 6 goals since his surgery, because I think 1 or 2 came before the surgery. So I would say when you're judging everything included, he'd probably say he goes into good.
It's very harsh on Rishi because if you take pre-surgery, his average is a 6 because, the first 4 games of the season, remember, he was terrible. We're giving him very bad ratings. And then, so pre-surgery, his average is a 6. Post-surgery, his average is a 7.2. So that would put him in very good. So unfortunately, it's an overall 6.3. So actually only goes into okay, which is, I think, a bit harsh considering how good he's been post-surgery. So I wouldn't mind bumping him up to good. But if we're taking his overall season, it is only okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's harsh to judge him pre that because he was playing with an injury. He got that surgery, sorted himself out, and he's been so much better for it. The team's been so much better for it. The goals have come in a flurry, haven't they? He's pretty much scored in every game bar one, I think, since his surgery. So I'd agree. I'd bump him up to good, to be honest. And if you're judging him and comparing it to last season as well, he probably should go into very good, to be honest. But we'll stick him in just good for now. Next up is our captain, Heung-min Son, and surely he goes into excellent.
Actually, he's only on a 7.2.
How?
Because there's just been some games where I guess we haven't rated him as highly. In fact, your average rating of him is 6.9.
Wow.
Which is
good.
Which is just about getting to good. I think he's definitely very
on the
good.
higher end of good.
I think he should be excellent. Obviously, 12 goals and 5 assists. I guess the problem with Sonny is when the games where he's not playing well, he can be very anonymous. So a lot of those times he will get a very low rating, and maybe we're harsher on him because we have high expectations. Whereas if he like puts in a performance where like a Johnson puts it, maybe we would give Johnson like a 6 or a 5 because we want to be a bit more lenient. But when Son's putting in a bad performance, we will give him like a 4 because like we expect so much better than him from him. But obviously he has had 2 10 out of 10. So like when he's good as well, we do bump him up. Obviously he should be an excellent. He has been excellent this season. But you also remember first bit of the season, he was playing left wing and he wasn't quite there, and then he moved into centre.
What was that? 3 games at the start.
It was, I think, the first 4 games at the start. I think he started left
wing. He moved into centre in the Burnley game, which was our 4th game of the season. Wasn't
Burnley
it?
was our 5th game of the season,
5th.
including the Carabao.
Right.
So he was playing left wing for a lot of that, and remember at the start he wasn't great at left wing. He has been good at left wing recently, but at the start he wasn't. So that also counts against him. But I think it's very harsh not to put him in excellent.
He has to go in excellent.
Yeah, he
has to go in excellent. It's not just what he's given us in terms of from a footballing standpoint as well, but from a leadership standpoint as well. He's been absolutely brilliant as our new captain. So he has to go into excellent. He's been incredible this season, Heung-min Son. The ratings are very harsh indeed. But let's move on to Decky. Again, Decky, I felt like he started the season slow, but he's got into the season in a massive way, and I think he's been so important to us over the last couple of months. And I would say he goes into very good, Dejan Kulusevski.
Yeah, 7. So yeah, right into very good. I think he's had a pretty good season. 5 goals and 2 assists, I think, overall. Obviously, played on the right wing for a lot of the season, then moved into the centre since Maddison's been injured, and found a new role for him as well, and a role he can be really effective in. He looks really happy there. So I'm excited to see him play more in the centre, but it'll be interesting to see in the second half of the season, now Maddison's back, where he gets most of his minutes. But I think by and large he has been very good when he's been on the pitch, and he's like done a really good job for the team. So yeah, I think very good to the right place for him. Yeah,
particularly when he's moved into the middle, in my opinion. I think he's been a bit wasted out on the right at the start of the season, but since he moved into the middle, when he's so central to the play and everything kind of goes through him, it's been incredible to watch, to be honest. And I'm actually looking forward, I don't know if we're ever going to see it, but maybe against a low block when we have James Maddison and Kulusevski in that middle. I think that would be incredible to see. But let's move on to Brennan Johnson up next. He's come under a lot of criticism, hasn't he, Brennan Johnson, of late? I think that some of it is warranted, but some of it is a bit over the top, in my opinion. I think he's been all right this season, 5 assists, I think it's been, 1 goal. As a new player coming into a new team, I know a lot of other players have hit the ground running and really just fitted in straight away. But, not all players are the same, and some players take longer to adjust than others. And I think Brennan Johnson is definitely, you can see that in him. But I think I've been fairly happy with him overall, to be honest. I don't get all the over-the-top criticism coming from him. But I would probably say he just goes into good.
6.4.
6.4, so okay, actually.
Actually goes into okay. I do think that's probably fair, to be honest. I like Johnson, and I think he has done a good job for the team, especially tactically. He stays wide, he can get to the byline. Obviously, some really good assists for Richarlison, but he definitely isn't at the level that we need him to be yet. I think that's fair to say. I think by and large, there's a lot of games where his final delivery is average and all these kind of things. I think in terms of just calling out what you're seeing in terms of a lot of his performances have been fairly average. Sometimes like he hasn't showed the quality that we need. I think that's fair, but writing him off, I think is completely unfair.
Yeah.
I think we've definitely seen more of enough ability from him, especially in flashes, to tell me he can be very effective in the system. But I think it's also fair to say he's not quite there yet. I think he needs to definitely he's still adapting to it. He's still there's been a few games, especially the United. I think the United game definitely sticks out because it's the last game he had, and he did have a specifically bad game. It
was a stinker that game.
But I think overall he's been okay. I don't think he's been great. I don't think he's been awful. But yeah, I think okay is probably fair.
Yeah, but there has been times, he stood out as a good performer as well, and played really well.
Remember that Newcastle game, it was amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think as well, it's been a bit unfair because he's nowhere near as good on the left as he is on the right. And when he was first getting minutes in the team, he was kind of just shunted out to the left because of the injuries that we did have when Son was up top. So it's been a bit unfair because he hasn't played in probably his natural position as much as he maybe would have liked, but I think being in okay is probably fair, to be honest, as much as I said good before. Next up is Alejo Veliz, I believe that is. I mean, hasn't played that much, but I've actually been quite impressed with him every time he's played.
Yeah, obviously only one rating we've given him. I think
only one.
The Brighton game, which he scored. Probably goes into can't judge. He did have a few cameos, I think Luton away, Liverpool. He came on, that was his debut, I think. And I think there was one game, I can't remember which one it was, where he literally came on and they blew up the final whistle straight away. I can't remember what game that was.
There was the other one as well, where he came on and just got injured and then he was playing with the injury.
That was his last game. Yeah. That was the last game. It was at Everton? Or was it Bournemouth?
Bournemouth.
No, it was...
It wasn't Everton.
What game was that? Yeah, it was a home game. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it probably was Bournemouth. But yeah, he hasn't, obviously you can't really judge him, I don't think, on the minutes he's had.
Yeah, I agree. But I do like the look of him, to be honest. I really do. I think he looks athletic, he looks quick, he looks big and strong as well for such a young boy. Well, he's actually not that young, to be honest. 19. Well, yeah. Yeah, I like him. I think he's got a big future, to be honest. So let's hope to see more of him second half of the season when he does get come back from his injury. Next up is Turbo Timo. Obviously played one game against Manchester United. Probably fair to put him in can't judge, but I think on that performance alone, you'd probably say okay.
I mean, on that performance alone, it's a 6.5 because you gave him a 6 and I gave him a 7. But
that's good.
That would have been good. But I think can't judge. It's one game. It's not even a game. It's like 60 minutes we're judging him on. So obviously we need to see a bit more of him before we can actually give him a rating. So put him in can't judge, I think. Okay.
Turbo Timo goes into can't judge. Next up is Brian Hill. Hasn't had that many minutes. He's come on in cameo spurts. Has started a game or two as well, to be fair. I'll probably say he goes into okay.
He's given a rating for 5 games and he's got an average of 5.5.
Okay,
so just about sneaks into okay, Brian Hill. And I think I agree with that. I don't think he's been terrible when he has had cameos. He's looked bright, he's taken people on, but
it's the quality at the end of those runs.
Exactly, and when it really gets to like, can he put a good ball in? Can he get a shot on target? All these kind of things. He's been found wanting. That's the reality, and that's why. I mean, maybe he's lucky not to be not good based on that, but I think he has been bright when he's come on.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, but I just don't see a future for him in this team.
Being bright isn't enough. Yeah, you know what
I mean. But quite amazingly, if you bring up that tier list, we'll get to Ange Postecoglou in a minute. Not one player in not good or awful, which is just a testament to how good we've been this season. To be honest, with the injuries as well.
I don't think anyone has been.
Yeah, it's true. So I think that's unbelievable. If you cast your mind back a year ago today, or not today, but a year ago when we would have done this at Halfway House last season, we probably wouldn't have had anyone in excellent, very good.
I think only Kane probably excellent, yeah.
So, yeah.
I think Bentancur as well, because he had a great season.
True. So, yeah, unbelievable to see how much of a reversal it's been from last season and how well these players are performing. But in terms of Ange Postecoglou, got to go into excellent.
Of course, 7.5. He does go into excellent. I think the only reason he's probably not high is because the Carabao Cup game we judged him quite harshly. I gave him a 5. I gave him a 4. You gave him a 5, and then the Brighton game obviously wasn't a great one. But other than that, he's been absolutely stellar management performances. I think he's managed games really well as well. I think sometimes he's used his subs really effectively. He has been criticised a few times for maybe making the wrong choices from subs. So I think by and large, when he does make a sub, it does affect the game positively. Obviously, I think the most important thing, the most impressive thing as well, is the way he's got the fringe players coming in and doing a really good job for the team, which is not easy at all. We've seen it before when we have injuries and the fringe players come in and they just let the team down, where I don't think that, obviously the results haven't been the same level once they've come in, but I don't think it's because they haven't been playing at their best, if you know what I mean. Like they're always trying their best.
100%. He's dealt with everything that's thrown his way, and a lot of shit has been thrown his way this season, from the start of it, of losing your star man in Harry Kane, and then the injuries. That Chelsea game decimated our whole season pretty much, and if it wasn't for that Chelsea game, we'd probably be sitting top of the league, which is crazy to think about, because no one even gave us a chance of top four, never mind being in a title challenge before the start of the season. No one even gave us a chance of Europa League. Crazy. Like, everything that's thrown his way, he's dealt with.
And said we'll struggle to make the top 10 without Harry Kane.
Yeah, exactly. So you're looking at it, and he has just been incredibly good, and couldn't have wished for a better start to life under a new manager. And he hasn't complained. He hasn't made excuses at all, and he's probably well within his right to make excuses with the injuries that we've had and everything like that. So Ange has been top notch. But in terms of a player of the season, to be honest, player of the season should be Ange Postecoglou. It should be him up there.
Manager of the Well, in terms of manager of the season overall in the Premier League, do you reckon he's got a good chance of getting that at the moment?
I think right now, if you're talking right now, it's got to be between him and Unai Emery, to be honest. I think both teams you wouldn't have said we're going to make top four before the start of the season, and both teams are fighting for it. So I think those two are probably... Maybe even Klopp as well, because the way Klopp has brought Liverpool back, finishing outside the top four last year, now they're sitting at top of the league. So it's got to be between those three.
Yeah, I think Ange has got a great shout. Obviously, a lot of it will depend on, where we finish in the season. But I think at the moment, and I don't see any reason why he's not right up there in the top candidates to win manager of the season. He's done an unbelievable job. In terms of our highest rating, bluntly, on an average this season, our highest average rating does actually go to Mickey van der Ven. He has averaged 8.0. He hasn't had a bad game throughout the whole season. He's been phenomenal. Hasn't had below a 6 the whole season. Only 3 times has he had a 7. So out of 13 games, he's had 3 7s, and the other 10 have been 8 or above. And that's just showed his remarkable consistency, how amazing he's adapted to the Premier League, and maybe benefited from the fact that, in a way, he has been injured, so he's had less games to judge from. But in those 13 games, averaging an 8 is astonishing.
Yeah, it is astonishing, and he's been absolutely brilliant. I would say it's a bit unfair on players that have played throughout the whole season to put him as player of the season, because he's just been out for the last 3 months. Such a large chunk of a season. We're only halfway through.
Is he our player of... look, this is judging our player of the season just factually based on our ratings. If we're giving our player of the season so far as a personal note...
Who would you give?
Probably... I'd either give it to Porro or Son. I can't think which one. I think Porro's actually been more consistent.
Porro, Son, and Kuti as well is in a shout.
Yeah, Kuti's there as well.
Vicario,
so hard. I'll probably give it to Son just because just him being the captain as well, how he's taken up that role, he's been so amazing. The fact that he's keeping pace with the top goal scorers in the Premier League, and as well, not only is he doing that, but he's near the top of the league for chances created, assists as well. He's having an astonishing season, and I think he would probably be my player of the season so far, but Porro a close second, then Vicario.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with that, but I've just been super impressed with Porro this season. I mean, I put him in as one of the flops of the season at the start of it. Do you remember?
I did.
So he's just completely surprised. My 2 flops of the season, I said were going to be Porro and Vicario. That's what I said at the beginning of the season, and they've both completely proved me wrong, to be honest. So judging on my expectations, because last season Porro defensively was getting eaten up alive every single time, and he's definitely been the most improved player this season, Pedro Porro. That's hands down. But I think he's got a very strong case for player of the season. Heung-min Son, look, he's been our talisman this season. He's been the one getting the goals, and he's been the leader on and off the pitch as well. So it's hard not to pick Heung-min Son, but I think I will just side with Pedro Porro, just because I think he's been our most consistent performer throughout the season. Most assists as a defender throughout the whole of Europe, which is incredible. And I think he's completely brushed up that defensive side of his game where everyone was worried about coming into this season. I remember when we played Man United at home at the beginning of this season, we were outside the stadium with Brian Daigle and we were reading out the team sheet, and I wrote Pedro Porro right back, and Brian Daigle, like, he fell to his knees going, oh, why is he playing Pedro Porro? Like, he can't defend. And that game kickstarted his season, didn't it?
Yeah, it hasn't looked back since then.
Yeah. So I go for Pedro Porro. Sim goes for Heung-min Son, but the tier list says Mickey van de Ven. Exactly. So look, this
the tier list never lies.
Never lies. Let's run through this tiers once again. It's going to be hard to see from here, but player of the season goes to Mickey van de Ven so far. Excellent is Vicario, Porro, Romero, Sarr, Bentancur, Maddison, Udogi, and Heung-min Son with Ange Postecoglou. In very good is Dejan Kulusevski. In good is Ben Davis, Ivan Perisic, Yves Bissouma, Giovanni Lo Celso, Manor Solomon, and Brennan Johnson. Richarlison. In okay is, I can't see that from here.
Bissouma. Emerson, Højbjerg, Ollie Skip, Brennan Johnson, and Brian Hill.
And then he can't judge is Fraser Forster, Dragushin, Sessegnon, Alejo Veliz, and
Timo Werner.
And Turbo Timo. So that is your halfway house tier list. We'll be bringing you obviously the monthly ones as we progress through the season. But let me know your thoughts on the tier list. Who is your player of the season? And do you agree with all the rankings that we've given to each and every individual player? Thank you everyone for watching. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.